All of us are designed by God to have strong and secure attachments of people we love. From the time we're conceived, we're actually being shaped by our attachment relationships. In fact, we develop a sense of safety and security from these important relationships. Now, these are questions of attachment. These aren't actually about steps that you take to be closer to your spouse, but it's more about ways of being with your spouse. These qualities mean that you're someone with whom your spouse can feel safe and secure. Emotionally safe marriage is one where you feel safe enough to say what you feel, knowing that your spouse will respect or at least try to understand your point of view. You also feel confident that at the end of an argument, you can come back together and reestablish your emotional connection and warmth. In fact, clinical experience and research have shown that there are 3 essential ingredients to a safe marriage. First of all, trust. Trust that your partner will always tell you the truth, that your partner can be relied upon to make wise decisions, that your spouse will be dependable, responsible, and reliable. But most important of all, that your spouse will always care for you and value you in spite of the storms you may encounter in your marriage. Now, the second important quality is emotional availability, which is your ability to turn your full attention to your spouse whenever he or she needs it. Research actually shows that marital satisfaction is very correlated to whether a person perceives a spouse to be emotionally available to them. Do you know that you can actually build your spouse's self-esteem and help him or her cope better with stress? The third essential ingredient to safety is sensitive responsiveness. So what does that look like? Here are some questions to ask yourself. How do I respond when my spouse approaches me about some painful event or hot topic in our marriage? Do I respond with understanding, even if I don't agree? Or do I sound critical or hurtful in my response? Am I defensive? Am I approachable? Do I listen with warmth without judging, criticizing, or problem solving? Unfortunately, when these 3 qualities aren't there, your psychological, relational, and even spiritual foundations can be shaken. This is the reality of human relationships in a broken world. Not only do we sometimes injure one another as husband and wife, but many of us actually enter our marriage with attachment wounds from our earlier childhood experiences and relationships that weren't always safe or secure. That means that we might have come into our marriage with attachment injuries that makes it just that much more difficult for us to trust, or we might have a greater sensitivity to rejection or abandonment. All of this affects our ability to build a safe marriage. Another reality is that marriage doesn't always turn out to be a place of safety, but instead it can be plagued by negative ways of interacting. It's actually often because couples love each other so much that strong negative emotions can arise. Each difficult encounter can then cause you to feel more fearful and more self-protective. And after enough of these encounters, you become overly cautious. You shut down your heart to protect yourself. Now, before I go any further, please know that if there's any physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, there can never be safety. That damage that has been done has to be dealt with before you can even try to move forward towards emotional safety with your spouse. It also requires both parties to be willing to move forward together. And if you don't believe that your spouse is safe for you right now, please take steps to protect yourself and get some help to navigate through the difficult challenge. But sometimes years of constant fighting can feel abusive and trusting just very difficult. You may have been disconnected from your spouse for so many years that the idea of having a safe marriage just seems impossible to achieve. You may be thinking it's not even worth the risk because it just puts you in such a vulnerable position. But please, believe that fostering a close emotional connection with your spouse and working towards a healthy relationship is very possible, no matter how bad your marriage may seem to be. Seeking professional help can help you begin the journey of healing and making the necessary changes. I'm Dr. Mary.